Today we're going to be starting the anatomy unit and learning about how complex our bodies are. While you're going through this screencast, make sure you have your notes with you, either printed from Axis or a separate sheet of paper that you're going to be taking notes on the entire time. And also remember that these notes are going to be turned in. So anything I underline or write down, I would also write that down in your note packet as we go. So homeostasis, our bodies as multicellular organisms, they're very complex, and our cells need a way to regulate themselves, and that is through homeostasis. Our cells and our entire body is regulated through this process, and there are two mechanisms or two types. That is negative feedback, which is usually a loop, and positive feedback, which will go away, and we'll talk about both of these. This is our body's way of maintaining stable internal conditions within the body by resisting changes. So it's really trying to keep our body normalized. So right now, everyone's talking about coronavirus, and so when our body is infected, we will get symptoms because our cells are starting to break down, and our body has to combat that with things such as fevers, or aches and chills, and so our system is failing, and we don't want it to fail. We want it to survive, because if it fails, that could lead to death. So we have ways to go against this homeostasis, and other body systems. But homeostasis is kind of like a thermostat in your house. It is regulated by setting it on, and we set a certain point. And if it gets too cold, then the heater turns on and the temperature goes back up to the temperature we set. So it's kind of like our bodies as well. This is an example of negative feedback. So in our bodies, negative feedback is the mechanism used to maintain homeostasis, and it's controlled by the brain. This is like our control center. And our brain can receive signals from our blood. So blood temperature decreases, then our brain is going to signal that it is too hot, and we will start to sweat to cool our body down, and our blood vessels will dilate, meaning they get bigger, they expand. If it's too hot, if it's too cold, our body will signal to our brain, and then our brain says it is too cold, and our blood vessels will actually constrict. They will get smaller in size, and we won't sweat, but we will have goosebumps, and we will shiver too to try to generate more heat for our body. So negative feedback is like a loop. It's always going to be the opposite response to the disturbance. We want to fix the problem. We want to go back to normal. So a stimulus could be the sun. A stimulus is something that causes change. And if we're in the sun, then the result is our body temperature is going to increase. We'll have an increase in body temperature, and then our heat receptors will sense or detect it. Detected by heat receptors in our skin, it sends feedback to our brain, which is the control center. And then it signals effectors, which is the response. And so we'll start to sweat, which will then decrease our body temperature. So it's a loop. Going back to normal, we want our body temperature to stay regulated. We can't get too hot or too cold. This is another example. If we go in the snow, then our body temperature will decrease. And it's detected by our cold receptors, which will then send feedback to the brain. and our response is going to be to shiver. And then we'll increase our body temperature. So the response, what's trying to do, is always opposite of the problem. It's going to fix it. That is negative feedback. Other examples of negative feedback are when we're hungry, that means our blood sugar is low. And when we eat, that will spike it back up. It signals to our body that we are hungry, time to eat. So multicellular organisms. Remember, multicellular means made of many cells. The smallest unit of anything, living or non-living, is always going to be the atom. So the smallest unit. We're going to draw an atom to remember what it looked like. So remember, an atom had electrons in the outer orbitals and protons and neutrons in the nucleus of the atom. Atoms can come together to form molecules. Molecules are a group of atoms bonded together, and they can be bonded by covalent or ionic bonds. An example of a molecule that we talked a lot about last semester was water. A macromolecule is a long chain made up of repeating subunits or monomers. And the examples that we have learned about are protein, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and lipids. A cell is made up of macromolecules. Remember, our cells' membranes are composed of lipids and proteins. We learned about DNA inside the nucleus, and that is a nucleic acid. We learned about RNA, which is also a nucleic acid. So cells are made of macromolecules, and they are the basic unit of living things. We have three main types of cells. There are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Remember, eukaryotes can be plant or animal cells. And then cells, same type of cells, can come together to form tissues. Tissues are many similar cells that carry out specific functions, such as epithelial, which is our skin, muscular, nervous tissue, our blood, cartilage, bone, and connective tissue. Tissues that have the same function come together to form an organ, like our stomach. So we have stomach, or our lungs, which we're going to learn about. Heart. Doesn't actually look like that. Chambered off. We'll learn more about the heart. These are all organs. And then organs with similar functions come together to form organ systems, such as the digestive system. And all of the organ systems in our body, like our respiratory system, nervous system, circulatory system, digestive system, all come together to form the organism, which is any multicellular organism like you, or me, or a plant, or a mouse, or a dog. I'm very good at drawing, as you can see. So any multicellular organism would be formed from many organ systems. So to review, fill in this chart. Pause it, see if you can remember, and fill it in as you go. And remember, organelles, we didn't specifically talk about them, but they are the structures inside of a cell. The last thing we're going to talk about in this video are the different organ systems. We're going over all of them in general because we're only going to focus on the respiratory system, the circulatory system, and the digestive system. And those are the systems that we will be building with clay. And if we are able to go back to campus, we will also be dissecting and looking at in our fetal pig. So here is just an overview of all of the organ systems. So in your chart, make sure you underline or highlight anything I do as well, and we're going to draw diagrams. So we have the integumentary system, which provides protection from injury and fluid loss, and it acts as a defense against microorganisms like bacteria or viruses. This includes our skin, hair, and nails, and it takes over most of our body. Our skin is many layers of cells The next system is the skeletal system, which most of you know includes all of our bones. It supports and protects the soft tissues of our body. So this includes bone, cartilage, joints, tendons, ligaments. Tendons and ligaments hold bone to bone and bone to muscle. Cartilage is found in between joints that protects it from like rubbing or crunching together. Most common, we talk about the cartilage in our knees, and we have bones. So we'll draw a little bone for the skeletal system. And we have our muscular system, provides movement. Without it, we couldn't move, support, and also produces heat. That's why we sweat when we work out, we get hot. Skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle in our heart, and smooth muscles of our organs. We'll draw a little arm, like a bicep. Then we have nervous system. This collects, transfers, and processes information and sends it to our brain. So this includes brain, spinal cord. So we'll draw a little brain and the spinal cord that comes off of it and goes down our spine. The next system we're going to talk about is the endocrine system, and this provides communication in our body with hormones. So this includes our pituitary gland, pineal gland, thyroid gland, and endocrine pancreas. So the thyroid gland is in our neck, and the reason we need iodine is because of this gland here. If we're iodine deficient, it will flare up and you get a goiter, which is kind of like a lump, a large lump. That used to happen. It doesn't anymore because we have iodine in a lot of our foods and especially salts that we use and vitamins. Our digestive system, it processes food so we can absorb nutrients, minerals, vitamins, and water. All of that is through our digestion. This includes our mouth, salivary glands, esophagus, stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine. So we'll draw our small intestine because it is the largest, the longest of all these organs. And I think the coolest. We have our small intestine. It could be about 27 feet long in humans. And the respiratory system, we all know, delivers air to sites where gas exchange occurs. So we need our respiratory system, like our lungs, our mouth, nose, to get oxygen in, carbon dioxide out in our body. So we have our trachea, and the bronchi, which we'll learn about, and we're going to draw the lungs. This side of our lungs is called the right side because it's always opposite of you, has 3 lobes. And the left side has only 2. Next, we have circulatory system that transports the oxygen from our lungs to cells in our body, and it also gets rid of waste by bringing carbon dioxide out from the cells. So our heart, and we'll learn about the structure of our heart more in the next unit. Urinary system, it's going to remove excess water, salts, and waste, and these are our kidneys. Then we have, kidneys, bladder. Lymphatic or immune system defends against infection and disease. And these are our lymph nodes. We have lymph nodes under our armpit, so we'll draw those there. And there's other lymph nodes, but we're just going to focus on these ones. And then we have our reproductive system, which produces gametes, and we learned about that in meiosis. The reproductive system, we will draw little gametes. And that's it.